Alright, we're going to showcase my Glacial Hammer Inquisitor here, just so you can get a sense for the playstyle. We're going to run a Chimera map. It has no defensive mods for the boss, and it has extra fire damage and damage plus attack and cast speed, and then more magic and rare monsters. This character is pretty tanky, and the damage is solid, not incredibly high though, so it definitely does better with extra damage mods rather than defensive mods, but it does fine. It's still got about 1 million shaper DPS. It does play out fairly similar to most, main-lock melee builds. As you can see, it can tank the syndicates pretty well. I was just base tanking everything there. I could have played that more cautiously if they were scarier mods.
You should have given them the red. Wait, what about a deal? What about last time?
I don't even think I had my endurance charges up for all of that. But yeah, it plays out pretty similar to most. You either consecrated path or shield charge into a pack, and then you left click. If the enemies are particularly tough, you can drop Frost Bomb. You can also pop Focus if you need to. For really tough enemies or kind of weird spread out packs, you can also drop your Veil Warchief Totem. I don't even have space on my skill bar for just the non-Veil version of the Warchief Totem, but honestly casting Frost Bomb is enough extra stuff to do most of the time, so I found it not to be a big bother, and in tough boss fights, the regular totems don't stay up very effectively anyway. But as you can see with Ancestral Call, I did the gem swap at the very beginning, but with Ancestral Call the clear is pretty good. It's not insane, but for a name-lock melee skill, for those of you who like really getting up in the mix, it does the job quite well. It has a lot of defensive layers, so you can be pretty reckless most of the time. It is a one-hander with a shield build, which does make a big difference. A lot of extra armor and the block chance, of course. And then the fact that you freeze and chill enemies a bunch with temp chains on hit is quite strong as well. I use Consecrated Path as a movement skill because I use the Pious Path node on the Inquisitor Ascendancy tree, and therefore Consecrated Ground is very important for both damage and the defensive bonuses of elemental ailment immunity, as well as, of course, the regen that everybody gets. So I just use that for a little bit higher reliability in terms of triggering that. You can actually see the attack speed difference. Why isn't he doing his little disappearing thing? There we go. I'll wait for that before I pop my buffs and stuff. Okay, so you can see I can tank it pretty well, phase him pretty quickly. The defensive layer of chilling and freezing stuff, you can see I'm actually not even getting hit by these trash mobs ads most of the time, which are actually pretty scary. It's one of the reasons I chose this fight to showcase it, so you can see the value of the freeze and chill from this build in action. I do also use the Overflowing Chalice here in order to ensure that I have flask charges up all the time, so I can actually use them a little bit on the ads if I want. Easy peasy. but it's not an overly complicated playstyle. One buff you do also have to manage with it is Enduring Cry. But you definitely get to get up in the mix, which is great. I feel like a lot of quote-unquote melee builds now are hardly melee. You can see I also did a gem swap there. I didn't even proc my Fortify. That was a mistake. But I still ate all their jumps, and it was fine. Not a big deal. But I do swap to Ruthless for single target setups that don't get knocked back. Since I use Lion's Roar, I actually like to keep Ancestral Call on for bosses that get knocked back.
To a crucible that
But
stretches the
that's
sanity
basically
of
it.
the mind.